Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I am Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrix. 4 years, buddy. What's going on?
We are fired up. It is our 4-year anniversary. This is going to drop in the big group on Saturday, the 25th. I'll be driving to Michigan for a week vacation. And we wanted to get some of our friends together, people who've supported the show in the past, and get them on and just sort of recap where things have gone over the last 4 years. When we started this crazy podcast, we certainly had no idea how many good friends we were going to make. That's for damn sure. And I can remember sitting with you and with the center square himself, Mr. Joey Vitale, talking about this idea we had of building this group. And I think, Tyson, you'd agree that it's gone beyond our wildest expectations.
Yeah, I mean, no question. I mean, it was seriously just me and you, just coming up with this idea of just talking and just talking about our ideas that we had on a podcast, and the people actually started to listen to it. And it's kind of nuts. And then the friendships that we've created, it's just nuts. I mean, I consider some of my best friends to be people that I've met through the show. So, and just the access to knowledge that we have is so amazing. It is like such a treat for you and me to have access to all these amazing people.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead. Let's go sort of around the horn and just sort of check in. Joey, since you were one of the first people to learn about what we were up to and hear about our crazy schemes, what reflections do you have from that time, and what have you noticed since then? I think you're muted.
Here we go. So I remember meeting you guys, and at the time I felt like I was meeting rock stars. And so it's interesting to hear you guys talking about how like you've had like these humble beginnings, because I remember being introduced to you guys as these are two guys who have, you know, this great podcast already that they're launching. And I guess you guys hadn't at the time yet created the group. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
It's
crazy. And we after you thought we were like these rock stars, you quickly were like, oh, this is not true. That's not true at all.
Yeah, I quickly was like, oh, I have to talk to this person who introduced me, because they really got my hopes up. But no, it's been really interesting to watch Maximum Lawyer go from these two kind of goofy but smart guys on a podcast to really much more of a community.
I mean, I'm thinking back to one of my absolute highlights of everything we've done in Maximum Lawyer was the first conference. And of course,
I was going to say that, Jim.
We had technical difficulties, as we often do, especially for poor Mitch Jackson. But I'll never forget sitting up behind the podium, and Joey was giving his presentation on being a lawyer, and he posted that picture of himself at his graduation where he's sort of looking, he has this look on his face where it's like, what in the world have I gotten into? And at times he looks like in the picture, he looks like a grown man, but he also looks like a little kid with his 8th grade or 5th grade, what do you call it? The hat that you wear when you graduate. I mean,
yeah.
And so Joey had his earpiece in, he had his camera, and I think I was taking pictures, and just the reaction that I saw Joey get from being vulnerable was tremendous. And I got to see it from behind Joey. I got to see everybody's faces, right? So that was, I think, before John Fisher shared, and to see overall the course of that whole conference, the vulnerability that John shared and Joey shared and other people shared, made me sort of bummed out of that I had this boring, here's how great I am on YouTube presentation, right? So that's sort of why I came back to the second year. I was totally had a different approach. So anyway, Joey, I loved that when you presented at the conference.
Well, I mean, thank you guys for having me. I remember that conference meant a lot to me for a lot of reasons, but as I think at least Tyson will remember, my mom came and saw me give that talk. As somebody who works with a kind of a niche type of business owner, but also just a lawyer, I know that my parents don't really understand the realities of what I do. So for her to have that glimpse into that, and see a story that I don't usually share with my family, but also kind of be in the room to see you guys. That meant a lot to her, and it really meant a lot to me. So thank you.
That was really cool. So let's have Seth talk about, because you mentioned the conference to me yesterday, the first conference. We were in a freaking law school. Like I just thought, Seth, you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of craziness that somebody's significant other couldn't get a hold of them, and we were like running around thinking somebody didn't make it that day to the conference. But what I would say is I look at this and I see Anneke, I see Jay, and I see like over the years through Ava with Jay and then Anneke with a mastermind group that's not now defunct, you pick up people along the way in your life. And I think what was special about that first Max Law was that all of a sudden it wasn't just like a person, but this entire family of people, each with like so many interesting things personally and business wise that you just knew something special was going on. We weren't in a fancy convention center. You were in a upper floor of a downtown, locked up law school. But it was pretty incredible to see all of these different people that you had sort of started to get to know online. And then all of a sudden the relationships were real. And that was pretty special.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I forgot all about the person that was missing. We're not going to mention their name, but it was pretty incredible. And I remember thinking, like, Jim and I, at least I was like, no one's going to show up to this. Like, I am so terrified that no one's going to come to this thing. And we had 70, 75 people or something. It was incredible. I mean, the people coming to learn and people willing to share, and William Eady's very cryptic presentation that we couldn't record. It was a fun time. It was good.
Baseball game might have been the creme de la creme.
Oh, that was
no question. No question.
So let's see. Let's kick it over to Jay. Jay, you've been such an influence on Tyson and I, such a great supporter. So we're glad that you could join us. And we always, of course, like your cool backgrounds on your videos. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great, and happy birthday, and thank you for having me. It's interesting because I've never really fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in law school at all, and I didn't really have I didn't fit in with many lawyers. I didn't feel like I was a lawyer when I was practicing for the longest time, that I didn't really belong. And I the only person I had really found on the circuit was Seth. And, so Seth and I would talk about random stuff, and we always kept saying, there's got to be more people like us. We just don't know where they are, but we can't be the only two weirdos out here. And I can remember getting a text message from Seth saying, I think I found our group, man. I think I found the people like us. He was really excited about it. I feel like, I found my people when I found this community, and that's really something special, because it took me. I mean, I wasn't around, 4 years ago. I've probably been around for 2.5 to 3. When I found this community, I found my tribe, which has been awesome. And it's really everyone sort of embraced me, and I can be brash, as we know this week. I can be outspoken and highly critical when I think it's necessary, because I want the best for everybody in this group. And I want people to be as hardcore towards me and call me on my stuff. Luckily I found a group of people that'll do that. And I have to say that it's a wonderful thing that you guys have created here. I'm happy to be a part of it for as long as you'll have me.
I think that the Guild hot seat from a couple days ago will be spoken about for a while. That's because of Jay. So it was but it was honest. It was to the point. It was great. And
it was a little profane. I'll admit I tend to be a little salty in my language.
But I think the power of Maximum Lawyer, though, is like the people, like everyone on here, everyone that listens to this, everyone that contributes, because it's the abundance mindset. I think that's what's great about it. I think it's the people that are willing to contribute to make the profession better is what's great about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that I can text you at 11:30 at night and say, hey, I have an idea. and we go back and forth for a few minutes, and and who knows what'll happen with something like that.
And then I fell asleep. That's pretty much. So let's go over to, so Jim, I want to go to Christopher Nicolaysen next, because talk about a guy that has grown since we've known him. I mean, like it's just been cool to watch, man. So Christopher, you're up next, buddy.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I have been a fanboy for a long time. You guys know that. I don't hide my allegiances to either of you guys, but I'm happy to actually call all of you friends. I'm looking on here going, holy cow, I've talked to Anneke and I've talked to Seth, and like, this is just great. And I don't have a lot of, friends locally, what I would say, but I agree with what Jay said. I think nationally, I have this group of people that I get super excited to go out and see when we can travel. And, it's from a firm standpoint, like ideas run in my head all the time, but it is nice to have kind of feedback or pieces that I can bounce, things off of, and just pick, how many times my staff hears me say, well, Ryan, I watched Ryan McKean do this thing, and they're like, God, Ryan McKean again, or, you know what I mean? Or things like that, or, you know what I mean? And I was just talking to Jake the other day and going, look, I need to talk to Tyson. I need to talk to the Jersey boys about this thing and do all of these things. And you know what I mean? I mean, I think it's one of those things, and it's, I've done this thing recently, actually, where I've started kind of eliminating, not even eliminating, but kind of moving people off to the side that aren't actually building me up, and being part of, and if that part of that has to be family, and some of it are, what I would call long friends, but friends that I've had in the past. But everybody here, I'm stoked to, call a friend. And I think it's just, and the one big thing recently for me has been with the pandemic has been the adapt or die mindset. And you just got to keep doing shit. I'm listening to 50 Cent's book right now. And his big mantra recently is just like, do shit. So even during this time, I mean, we're hiring an associate next week. And so it's just, yeah, we're just going to keep pushing forward. And I'm really thankful for you guys for it.
That's awesome, bro.
Plus my daughter just got married, and we're driving my other daughter to Louisville tomorrow for law school. So yeah, that's crazy times. So, yeah.
Let me kick it over to the greatest connector among us, the one who has been our #1 supporter from day one, the man who gave the most awesomest of speeches, who taught us all how to be raw and vulnerable, who has done more to connect the people on my screen right now and in the group itself. And that's, of course, our friend John Fisher, also someone who never is shy of sharing his opinions. John, reflecting back on your time with us and how the mastermind experience and the Maximum Lawyer Group has sort of grown in parallel, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's such a nice, I call it a tribe, because a tribe is a group of people who will do anything to support each other. And when you're in a tribe, you can accomplish so much more than you can alone. And one of the things, Jim and Tyson, that you've created here is not just a group of people bragging about their accomplishments, but talking about their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities and the things, their failures and mistakes. Because I'm sure everyone on this call, I have failed 100 times more than I've succeeded at anything. And it's nice to know others are out there who have had the same experiences. And I have to say, Jim, last year, the speech that you gave, that was so memorable, and I will never forget it, because it was just raw, genuine, and you revealed your vulnerability in a way that I had never seen anything like it. And you talk about Marcus Lemonis, and when we saw together that speech he gave, I was blown away by it. But I have to tell you, your speech was on the same level of something like that, because it was so much even more raw than what we saw from Marcus. And so I kudos to both of you. And Tyson and Jim, what you've done, I think you've shown, is not just the inner workings of yourselves and your firms, but also, most importantly, you've been consistent over time on a weekly basis, because I look forward to your podcasts every week. But if you missed one or two, I would notice. So kudos to you. And I think that one of the things that we had this discussion once, what is the thing that I think could hold you back? And I was brutally honest with you. I said, once you start monetizing things, and I think the Guild is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but this community, Maximum Law, it's got to be free. That's the key to the success. And you've done that really well. So anything where you use Maximum Lawyer in any way to like for money, and you haven't done that. But if you did, that would be the drawback. And I just think that you've done a wonderful job with this, both of you. And I feel so privileged and honored to be part of this group, and I've learned so much from it. And so I just feel like when you give, it motivates me to give back.
Well, John, thanks for all that. And you talked about my speech at the conference last year, and you weren't on at the very beginning of this call. And what I said was, and what is true, is that you showed me how to be vulnerable to people. You, with your talk about your dad and his alcoholism, and I'll never forget with your son there, when you laid down as your dad on that desk, there would not have been my talk last year if you hadn't given the talk the year before. And I think that's the great lesson of Maximum Lawyer, is that we learn from each other and we're always trying to do better. I made a fateful mistake that first year. I was supposed to go on before you, and I switched it and had you go on first. And then I had this boring talk about YouTube, right? And so I learned right there, watching you be vulnerable, to share more of myself. And it took me a year to get ready for that, but it was only because you unlocked that in me.
Yeah. And it was such a powerful speech. You know, you and I come from the same background, and I have never known anyone who was subject to anything that you discussed. And so my view of things really is quite different, but it enlightens me, and I see something like that. But that takes extraordinary courage to share what you did. And I just think the world of you as a person for doing that.
Thanks, brother. Right back at you.
All right, Jimmy, let's go over to Ryan McKean. We've waited way too long to get to Ryan McKean. He's more of the glue that bonds us together. So Ryan, what's up, man?
Tyson, Jim, thank you both so much for the great gift that is your podcast, the community, and everything that you have done over 4 years. It's remarkable. 8 years ago, I was the last day I signed just the back of my paycheck. I quit my job. I walked out 8 years ago today. And I'll tell you, when I walked out 8 years ago, the amount of resources out there for people wanting to do this were nil and none. I mean, there just really weren't. There wasn't a wealth of information. You had Jay Foonberg's book, Sam Glover at Lawyerist was putting out some stuff, but nothing compared to the depth that you guys have now. And I think that owning a law firm and running a law firm is can be one of the both most rewarding things that people do, and also one of the most challenging things that people do. And the amount of information that you put out, and I always tell people who are looking to do it, I always say, all you have to do, don't have to buy anything, just go and listen to the Maximum Lawyer podcast episodes. I say, I don't even care. You don't have to start with any one person. Pick a random episode and just listen through. I'm like, all you need to know is contained in those episodes. And I want to share the story of how I really met you guys and came involved with it. As a solo, I think it was hard, but you get to a certain level and you can build. And then it's like, I found myself in, I think it was like November of 2017 of like, how do I sort of systematize success? And I had successes in the past and I had failures, and how do I sort of get things to be more consistent? And I settled the case, and Jay Ruane was like, Ryan, Seth is banging on me. You got to come to this mastermind in Chicago with John Fisher. And I said, okay, Jay knows what he's doing. So I go out with John, and somehow I start listening to your podcast. And I'll never forget, there was a day in my life where it was right after that, right around Thanksgiving, where my credit cards were maxed out. And I went for a walk, and my wife was crying, and it was a cold November night. And I remember listening to one of your podcasts, and the episode changed my life. It was like, it said, you're never going to get ahead unless you leverage the time and talent of others. And that just spoke to me. So I went from a position of not having money to saying, like, I need to hire 2 people. And that changed my life. And what you guys have accomplished and the way you guys have grown consistent with your values is remarkable. It is a remarkable gift to this profession, and thank you.
Well, thanks, buddy. Very nice things you said too. So it's interesting. You made me think about some things. Just how this has grown over the years. It's really like it started with just a podcast, and then it morphed into a conference. And then we added Maxwell Media. Then we've added the Guild, and now we've got, it's interesting. Like we have things that like, we're not done, right? Like we've got Maximum Growth Live, which I always have problems saying, with Jay and Seth. We've got Maximum Storytelling coming out with Anneke and Josh Nagel. Jim's got a new intake podcast that's coming out that's going to be freaking killer. I mean, and a lot of it has to do with because of Anneke and because of Becca. I mean, like they've done a shit ton of work to help us get that stuff done. It's just been insane how this all freaking started. So now I'm gonna kick it to Anneke, and then we're gonna go to Becca. So Anneke, you're up.
Actually,
Okay.
Anneke, before you go, let me say a couple things about you. So Anneke is a mastermind when it comes to getting to the emotion of marketing. Like when it comes to, it's not just a tactic, it's not just a method of marketing, it's how do I do this marketing piece with a hook into the heart of the people that are receiving the marketing. And she can do it with bicycles, she can do it with storytelling. She's really been a special member of the group, especially I think as a non-lawyer who has worked with lawyers and knows how lawyers think. It's almost like, and she's younger than I am, but it's almost like a big sister who knows how we fools are, if that makes sense. So Anneke, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. So Jim, when you said the fateful decision to switch your speech order, and I have looked at this whole Maximum Lawyer thing from the very beginning as one tiny piece in this serendipitous world that we live in. I started keeping track of all of the different times the interactions with all the people in this group have meant something so much deeper than the surface interaction. And it's a very, very long list. So, I mean, to my absolute core, and I'm probably going to sound crazy, or I don't know, like I depend too much on what the stars aligning tell me, or that I'm like a religious nut or something. But to my core, I believe that every single interaction that I've had with the people that I've had the honor of meeting was there for a reason, a super true reason. And I've obviously become close with a lot of the people in this group, and I hope to become close with a lot more. But the support has been, I mean, truly life-changing. And I think that every day when I go into the kitchen and I look at that Anneke cookie jar that Tyson sent me after that first podcast episode, I don't know, like 3.5 years ago, it makes such a difference. And I know that we could all talk about numbers and clients and money and success, but honestly, for me, and I know you guys know, I'm very rosy colored glasses. I'm very, like you said, Jim, there's this emotional hook to it, obviously, but I really truly feel like it really changes whole families. It changes families and it changes communities in a super big way. So I'm eternally grateful.
Completely agree. I think that.
And before we get to Becca, it occurs to me that one of the cool things about this, like when I came to one of John's masterminds in DC, I got to meet Seth, and Seth showed me that basement of his office, and Seth like wasn't practicing, he was just running his firm, and I was like, I want to be Seth. And then I went to dinner at the Japanese or that Indian restaurant, and Chris Nicolaysen sat next to me, and he's like, I want to be Jim. And he got to meet me, and it was like he and Gretchen were like, oh, it's Jim. And I'm like, it's just Jim, it's just me. And that's one of the things, is we get to be stars to each other, right? Like if you think about Huntsville, Alabama, there's no one that you're going to think of but Mo Lilienthal, no one else. And Mo is this bigger than life person that wouldn't have this following if this thing wasn't here. And so that's, to me, the great thing is, and my wife calls you guys my band of misfits, right? And I like that. I'll take that on. I
It's
feel
so
like we're a
true.
band of misfits because we're sort of gently pushing back against the machine. And we all have our things that we're strong at. We all have these things that we're weak at. But that, I think, is really the beauty of the community that we've built.
No question, no question. Well, okay, so Christopher Nicolaysen posted something, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 months ago, and he says, is it me or has Maximum Lawyer really upped its game or something like that?
Yep.
And I gotta say we have, and it's not because of me and Jim.
For sure.
Me and Jim do the same boring old stuff. It's because of Becca. Becca, you've only been around for about a year, less than a year, but you've ramped shit up. So Becca, you're gonna get one of the last words here.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm probably the newest piece to this puzzle, definitely. But what I love is just being a part of something that is helping grow other people, other businesses. So providing a community, you know, you mentioned the access to knowledge. And I love being around people who are into personal development and growing their businesses. That's my jam. That's what I love. And I'm really excited for what's to come from here.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think the things that we have in the pipeline I think people are gonna like it. And it's the same old stuff. It's not gonna be us selling stuff to people. It's the same old stuff. It's just in a different way. So Jimmy, I'm gonna give you the last word, buddy.
Well, number one, let me just say how grateful I am for you, Tyson, for having you be my partner. How great it's been being on this journey with you. If this had been Jim hacking the Maximum Lawyer, the podcast would have fizzled out after 3 episodes.
Maybe 1 episode.
Yeah, it would have. I would have gotten all fired up, all worked up, and then I would have forgot to record the 2nd episode. The last thing that what I wanted to end with, I was on a walk today, listening to Jim Rohn, and he was talking about wisdom, and he was talking about the difference between wisdom and money. And with wisdom, you can share your wisdom without losing your wisdom. Like if you have $1, you can only use $1 so many ways. But with wisdom, which is really what we've all gleaned onto, we've learned to be wise about our lives and about our approaches. And the wisdom has really helped us grow. And that's what we become a messenger of. It's this wisdom that we're able to share with each other. And we get wisdom from the most randomest of places. And we could have an episode with someone who's been practicing for 6 months, and they might teach someone who's been practicing for 30 years something. So that, I think, has been a great gift of the group. And that's one thing that I'll remember about the group.
So true. All right, so I was gonna wrap things up, but we had someone crash the party at the last second. So we can't go without getting to Don McClure, because he's been a member of this from the beginning. So Don, you get to say whatever the hell you want, because you just crashed the party. So jump right in.
My timing was perfect.
Yeah. So all right. So tell us just, I guess, your thoughts about Max Law over the last 4 years or so.
It's amazing to see the growth, especially to see growth without major changes with the group. Because when you're a smaller group, it just seems to function different. And when you start getting larger, you can have people that are negative or that can be hurtful to other people. And I think that we've avoided that. I think, that's a culture thing that we're all invested in, to make sure it stays the kind of place where you're protected. You can say you're having a hard time with something, your business isn't going well, whatever your issue is, there's probably a member that's dealt with that same issue. And I love the fact that you have people from, who have just gotten their law license, to people who are making, lots of money and have a very successful practice. And the one common theme of it is that everybody's generous with their time, with their advice. They're willing to get on a phone call with you. I know I've got on a phone call with many of our members, and everybody has always been willing to share, their experiences and give advice. So I really have enjoyed it.
You're so true about culture, and we are going to do everything we can, and we have done everything we can to maintain that culture and that feel. And as you'll probably see, we're regularly monitoring the group to make sure it stays that way, because it's really, really important. So before I wrap, anything else anybody else wants to say, wants to throw out there?
You got us all speechless.
Good. That's fantastic. That's the way we like it.
Well, lawyers.
Yeah.
I do feel like since Jim said such nice things about me, I do feel like I've got to say some nice things about him, even though I'm very mean to him on almost every episode. I don't really mean it. I truly love you like a brother, buddy. And it's been great to get to know. I'm choking up a little bit. Holy crap. I mean, it's been great to get to know you, man. I mean, we've always had this bond, this connection, and it's been great to be able to share it with you. This has been awesome. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jimmy. It's been great.
Peace, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks for coming on.
Is this when we sing happy birthday?
A lot of fun.
Happy birthday to you. No? You don't want to hear me sing.
No, I don't.
You definitely do not want to hear me sing.
No. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Hey, Tyson and Jim. It's Lawman. Sorry I missed your recording. Man, I wish I was on it with all those guys. And sorry I missed it. Connection was bad, but congratulations to not just 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, but 4 years on the air. And you guys are great contribution to the legal community. Both Jim and Tyson, you're just wonderful people. And again, sorry I missed it. I'm actually sad, but happy for both of you guys and for everyone that's associated with you. You guys do great work. Bye.